And it was looking at my family and feeling a little bit foolish that I was doing this for so long. And, you know, it may have just been silly. I felt that at one moment. I remember when I was at the dinner table and I was like struggling a lot internally, like, like I was like, am I in la la land too much? I don't, like I just really doubted myself when I saw that these were not staying in. And is it humanly possible? And I just looked at my kids and my family that was like my support and always believes in me. And I felt like silly. I felt silly. I felt like I was disappointing them.
Welcome to Beyond the Fail, the podcast where we talk to leaders and entrepreneurs about their biggest business failures. We'll deep dive into how they overcame these setbacks, the lessons they learned from them, all to help you gain valuable insights. Failure is an essential part of the business journey, as well as being the key to success. So we're here to show you how to thrive from it. Lisa Rizzo is the founder of Challenge U Softball, the largest softball-only training facility in the US. She's also developed an innovative coaching program which combines technical softball training with mindset through her VBS system, visualization, body language, and self-talk. This program has certified coaches in over 21 states and within Canada. Lisa is very much a leader in innovation in softball coaching. Today she shares the steep learning curve of launching an apparel brand, including a significant challenge she had in the design and manufacturing process for one of her new footwear brands, costing her thousands and pushing the launch date back by nearly 1 year. This is Beyond the Fail with Lisa Rizzo. Lisa, thanks so much for being here today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm blessed to be on here today and share my story and super grateful.
Thank you. Yeah, no, looking forward to everything you have to share. And as we talked offline, you're kind of keen to get stuff off your chest. So I'm looking forward to this one. So why did you get started in business, Lisa?
Well, to be honest with you, anytime somebody would ask me that question, I immediately thought, it was just in my genes. It was just in my DNA. And then one day I was prepping for something. I'm like, you know what, let me just really explore this question. Like, why am I an entrepreneur? So I really dug deep in my life, which I like to do here and there to connect the dots. And I believe it's 3 reasons. One, definitely my family history. So my grandparents owned an Italian deli in New York City back in the day. They owned a liquor store in East Harlem, New York, which is a very Italian-heavy area at the time. So they were business owners, but they also worked in their business until they were 75 years old. They just started it and they worked it, but they were business owners. And then, so I would say it's in my family, right?
So is that what you meant when you said DNA?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe it's in me, whether it's a shop that they ran for their entire life or whether they had people run it for them. It's in my DNA. That's what I feel for sure. That's one aspect of it. The second aspect is when I was very young, I was 4 years old. I have a brother and sister who are a little bit older than me. And I actually came home and found my father unresponsive with my brother, my sister, and my mom at 4 years old. So I immediately, I'm sure, I don't know if anything's happened to you in your life where something very heavy happens, it sticks in your mind, So I immediately learned how fast life can be taken from you. He was here one day and I saw him disappear one night when we came home, and I realized that life can be taken at any moment. So I grew up knowing that, knowing that we're not promised here forever, So I think I was a little scarred with that at a young age. But it's also a power story to me because I used it to really live the life that I wanted for myself. So that, and then also I just feel it's personality traits. I kind of was always a little bit of a badass growing up. I didn't want to listen to anybody at certain times of my life, to be honest. And when I set my mind to something, it was definitely going to happen, especially when people would doubt me. It was kind of like, it was kind of like just a gritty attitude, no matter what it may be. So when I was younger, sometimes I would get in a little bit of trouble because I was acting out. But other times I would set my mind to accomplish something and I would achieve something that I was very, very proud of, you know? So I think it's three things. I think, you know, seeing my grandparents' deli. I think it's realizing, you know, that people could just disappear. I could just disappear at any time. And then also, I think it's personality traits. I think it's characteristics that you have from when you're a young age. Just kind of that, like, nothing's going to stop me, you know, energy about you. And I was always like that from when I was young. So I can't really pinpoint one thing that made me an entrepreneur, to be honest.
No, I love it. I mean, it sounds like you have done some thinking about that question quite a lot, really.
Yeah, because I think, honestly, you know, it's important to understand the why behind why you do what you do. I think it gives it more power. And then it also gives you a chance to look at your story that, you know, some would consider a very heavy struggle and traumatic, and turn it into your power story, make it something that you can use to, like, fire you up and keep going more, you know? So I like doing that with myself here and there.
Yeah, and obviously there's a lot there, you know, as well within those three elements, and you know, as you said, some kind of heavy stuff, but that's kind of the origins of it. But I suppose, you know, you can meet people that have obviously had entrepreneurs in their family, and it might send them the other way, right? It might actually it might put them off, particularly with your grandparents, you know, working till in their 70s. Actually, in some people could put them off, because that is obviously I would say, not the way to do business, right? You know,
Correct.
that's essentially a job, isn't it? And
Correct.
So, did you take inspiration from that? What reaction did you have to the way they set up their business and ran it?
Yeah, I liked the freedom, you know. So for me personally, I like to not have a cap on my income, not have locked in schedules for myself, because I feel like when I am building a business, you know, whatever any of the businesses that I've built, you know, I'm on to my third one pretty much. I know that I will work as much as I choose because I'm inspired to make it very successful. And for some people, that be working 24/7. But when you're obsessed with something and you have a clear vision of it, you don't mind it. You know, you're building something for yourself. And I liked that they never seemed unhappy. You know, they seemed like it was just their family in that Italian deli, in that store. And, you know, they can take off on holidays. And, you know, I like the freedom. I like no cap on my income. And I like to be as successful as I want with things that I love to do. That's important to me. Have a good quality of life while I create what I want to create.
But did you see that? I mean, did you see those elements with that in terms of like quality of life and freedom? Because, I mean, if they were working till they were 75, you could argue that actually there was some restrictions. You know, they couldn't retire early, kind of thing, and you know that maybe they were chained to that deli, and
right. To be honest with you, it was a family business. It was a family team effort. The name of the deli was their last name, the family's last name. So whether it be, you know, my aunt and uncle were in the other side of the deli making homemade pasta, they never seemed, and again, this was from how I saw it growing up. Me, if I saw it now, I may have a different perspective. I may say, wow, they work 24/7. But that was the impression I got when I was younger, that they were doing something together. I'm sure they were exhausted, but my grandpa was there every day at 4 a.m. and he liked it. He seemed like he liked it, you know, with his coffee and his music playing. That's what I saw at a young age, you know, but I saw that freedom. I saw that family environment. That's what I picked up when I was younger. But ask me now if I could go back there now, I may see very tired individuals, you know, but I didn't see that younger. So if they did experience that, which I'm sure they did, because every entrepreneur, every business owner, even, especially if you're working in the business, you're not necessarily like an owner to me or hands-on in the business. If I saw that, I may not feel the same way about starting something myself so joyfully and excited. It's not so excited to do something like that.
Did you ever see them have any sort of challenges or struggles or know of any challenges and struggles they had?
I'll be honest with you. I was younger, and I honestly didn't. I didn't. It was Lombardo's Family Deli, and I never saw that.
I mean, I bet they were at the heart of the community as well, though, weren't they?
Yeah. They were like a staple in their area, and they were like just that feel good place to go. It was like the neighborhood, it was the neighborhood spot, and that was what I saw. I just saw that joyful community of togetherness. At the same time, I also didn't want to work myself until I was 70 years old. So I learned the other side of what I don't want from that, When I got older, I realized, like, wow, they stopped at 70 years old from working in that business. Oh my gosh. I realized that when I was older though, and I realized I don't want to do that.
Yeah. And you used an interesting word you used, which was like joyous.
Yeah.
Which is I suppose a rarely used word in business in some ways. How have you taken that inspiration or that concept into the businesses that you've had?
So the businesses I have, so basically my first business is I own softball training facility that is all women, all girls for softball. And I really turned it into a pretty large company because I focus on the mental game. And that's what I knew would make us different than any other facility in the country. So I created a system called the VBS system, which stands for visualization, body language, self-talk. So we're teaching our athletes the power of visualization, body language, and self-talk to really change their game on and off the field. So when I built that first business, yes, I was tired. Yes, I was exhausted. Yes, I stressed out about paying my bills when I first started it. But I felt a sense of joy because I was seeing the effects of my work when I was just doing it by myself when we first started on these athletes. So I always go into something that that is fulfilling to me and that will serve a greater purpose to others. That's just that. Those are the businesses that I like to get into. My best friend does real estate all the time, and they feel fulfilled in that way. Definitely she has some very stressful moments, but I personally like to get in businesses that I know I'm making a difference in others' lives. That's my passion. That actually, I don't even say passion because I think that word's kind of played out a little bit. I say that's my gift. I feel like that's my gift in why I'm here. So when you look at something as a gift, it's like you have to use it, So that gives me joy. That business gave me joy. It gave me more joy than the stress of dealing with clients sometimes, or the parents, or if my first facility flooded when I had 100 kids coming in, or, a bad review because one of my coaches were late to the lesson, like all that. The joy behind what we did there and what we still do there, that outweighed any of it's just the businesses I like to go into, or else there's really no point to do it.
Was that your first business?
That was my first business. Yeah, I graduated college. I played college softball, and I would say playing college softball got me on like a good path. I didn't know what I was going to do after high school. And then I picked up a game on my friend's team where they were going to a college recruitment showcase. And I had no plans on going to college. My mom just started cleaning houses to raise my brother, sister, and I when my dad passed. So we were just kind of like bootstrapped. We were low-income family, and I got this opportunity. I got approached by college coaches when I went to this showcase. And I was like, oh, I think I could play college softball. This is great. Once I played college softball, I was like starting all 4 years. We went to the World Series. I was captain 2 years. And that was like, this is it from like, wow, I feel great. I found something in me that made me feel like my true self. Like I felt so alive when I would play. And then when the game ended, I was like, man, what am I going to do? I have to pay my bills. I'm on my own because I couldn't go back to our living situation, our small 2-bedroom apartment. I dead broke, felt lost when that's taken from when you graduate college and your identity is really a sport and being in that flow of college. I felt lost, but I was different than how I was before going into college. So I started working a million jobs. I was a dog walker. I worked at a group home to help out kids. I was kind of like a counselor there, but I was just like an eye there. I wasn't like a counselor, but I would sleep there 3 nights a week with kids in foster care. We kind of it was like a group home. And then I was picking up jobs on Craigslist. I don't know if Craigslist is still around, but it was like landscaping jobs. I was hustling. I worked at an acupuncture office. I was working like 10 jobs.
Wow.
And then, I was just a hustler because I didn't want to grow up. I didn't want to have a life that I grew up in because we grew up pretty poor. So one day I'll never forget, I started getting into the law of attraction and The Secret, and I started reading Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. And I was 23 and I wrote down my vision of what I wanted for my life. Like I was like, if I could just create anything in my life, like anything, what would I do? No limits on this vision, like anything. And it was own a very successful softball training company because that was what made me feel really good. Like that was like the most happiest I felt was that sport. So it was so clear in my head. I wrote down, I would have people working for me. I would be nationally known. Like I didn't write this vision like to be the most known in our town or our state. I was like, I'm going to be known in the country. Like, and I believed it. I made this vision so clear that I actually wrote it when I was in the motor vehicle waiting for my registration on there. And I was so broke. I was like negative in my bank account. But I had these visions of like crazy fun stuff because I was like, let me write a vision that's like so free. Like
that's the purpose, right?
Right. So I ran home and I figured out how to make a website. I got magnet cars and I started giving lessons outside. I was like, damn, I could charge $60 an hour. I'm going to make this into something. I bought a pay-as-you-go phone and I had acted like I had a company voice now. I asked my friends if I could throw them on the website to act like they worked for me. Meanwhile, I was just me doing one-on-one lessons. And the way that I was training these girls was I was giving them confidence. I was training them stuff that like I wished I had growing up. So it was very therapeutic for me also. And I was really good at what I was doing. So 4 years later, my name spread. And 4 years later, I was like, I'm just going to open up a little spot. So I opened up my first little spot, softball training facility. And it was in the basement of a furniture store that flooded every time it rained. And it was just, and I started making some money and I was like learning business that way. I didn't go to school for business. I didn't go to school. I didn't learn much about, being an entrepreneur besides just what I saw, like I shared. But I had a very clear vision of what I wanted. And then I hired one girl and this, and then we expanded into very large facilities, outdoor camps. Now we have travel teams. We do college showcases ourselves. So I really, really expanded off of just working outside and doing that little one-on-one vision that I had at the time.
Well, I mean, the vision obviously was effective.
Yeah. I'm very big on that. I think sometimes people follow the books too much and just do too much, like studying motivational speakers or, studying business without really setting a clear intent of what you want your life to look like. Besides the money, because the money will come, I feel, when you have the whole package of that feel good, that this is a quality of life. And I don't think business has to be such a negative, depressing thing to start. I don't believe that. The way I do business is I'm just so excited and, things happen, but I'm so excited on the vision that I'm kind of more like, I'm going to figure this out more, that's just how I do it. And sometimes it could like rub people the wrong way, like, oh, she's in La La Land, but I created some successful companies for myself, and I also have a very good quality of life.
But I think some of that sounds like it comes from the fact that you're quite clear on the reasons you're trying to start businesses, and that back to the kind of the purpose aspect, right? Because that's going to give you that positivity, and that's going to give you that drive if you're just really passionate about what you're trying to do. And obviously that, you showed that in the softball story where you were really passionate about softball, and obviously the impact that it made on your life, and that's led you to then follow your passion, follow that through, and then basically teach others.
Exactly. Yeah. And I also really wanted to be financially really well off. I wanted to have financial freedom. So that was always there too. But I learned that was coming when I was laser clear on, I was laser focused on what this softball little thing would turn into.
Is that something that the financial aspect, was that something that you kind of visualized and sort of had a goal on, or was it always just about the kind of the purpose side?
Oh, no, I'm very big in, I do want nice things for myself, and I always did. When I set that vision, it was, I would have people working for me, and I would be able to step back. I would be able to buy, my dream car, my dream house. I could buy any. I think a lot of people, they put kind of like they make it a bad thing to want finer things in life, and I'm not sure why. They call it like superficial, or you see that like, why it doesn't matter, the things in life that you want, it doesn't matter. Cars don't matter and homes don't matter. But I disagree, because those are things that I want in my life. Like, why not have what I personally want to explore? I want to have the financial freedom to get on a plane and go explore Greece, or just go to Palm Springs or a wine country. Like, I want that financial freedom as well. And I didn't grow up with it. I saw a lot of other people grow up with it. So, you see it on TV, and I kind of was like, I'm going to have that. So I knew that that's what I wanted. But I didn't just focus on that. That's the thing. Like, I didn't, because I also wanted to feel good. I wanted to feel like purposeful, I see so many people. I live in a pretty wealthy town now, and I see a lot of people that are very, very wealthy, like very set. But I sometimes don't see that joy. I sometimes see that missing family dynamic, and I really don't believe it has to be that way. I just really don't.
Yeah, it's back for me. That's back to the purpose thing, and those, because you can obviously get rich without actually being passionate about what you do, and that is gonna bring as you said, a bit of a soulless kind of life. And I think that's why purpose is so powerful and so important.
I agree 100%.
You kind of hinted at it a little bit, but in terms of the steep learning curve that you would have gone through, starting that business from scratch, and was there ever any sort of fears or doubts that you were making the right decision, that you were doubting yourself, that you could you had the vision, but did you ever think, oh shit, that feels like quite a stretch?
No, but I learned quickly that I have to be a certain way sometimes in business, which is I have to be tough. I have to not allow people to take advantage of me. And that was the first case with my landlords of my first space. I was being taken advantage of, and I felt like I was losing a lot of money because clients couldn't come to my location because we were underwater. And I had to kind of become someone that I didn't know that I had to be when I was so green in business, which was very firm. Others would call it a bitch, but but for me, it's very firm. You have to be like that sometimes. And that was like a wake up call to me that, okay, this is how I have to be in certain situations, right? This isn't going to be all roses. So I learned quickly to not allow anyone to take advantage of me. So I created like another part of my personality through that, because I never had to be that way, you know? Other times I definitely had doubts was in the slower months. So in the slower months, there were times that I'm like, okay, how am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to do this? You know, like our first year. And I really would just figure it out. I always just figured it out. I can't tell you how, but I always just figured it out no matter what. You know, I never let anything stop me from getting something done that I had to get done. Also, staff. I learned quickly that I have to put legal agreements in place with staff, because I was burned with some staff, whether they took my clients and just trained them on their own and took a chunk of the clientele. So I had to learn, you know, that's very difficult though, because you have to learn the legalities of having staff, what they can do, non-competes, employment agreements. And that could be stressful, because there's times that you're like, am I going to have to do this by myself forever? Am I ever going to be able to trust employees? And then I learned over the years how to hire better, and also how to put those, you know, kind of like legal agreements into place, but also how to be a boss that makes them want to stay with me and perform and be part of the brand. And I had to learn how to be that way. And that's very hard. That's very hard itself, especially when you have, you know, 15 employees, and it was just me at the time with my with my softball facility. So that was challenging for sure.
Yeah, as you say, a lot of steep learning there, and that's the thing about business, especially if you start one on your own, isn't it? That you have to be everything.
Everything.
Yes. You have to be the HR, you have to be the finance, you have to be the marketing, etc., etc. And you don't know those, as you said, you don't know some of the concepts around contracts. What does a good, staff contract look like?
Yeah, and I think people, especially on social media, you see like somebody that starts a business, right? And right away they're just throwing their money around, right? They have 5 people working for them. They're renting out the nicest offices. And I don't believe in that. I mean, you got to really bootstrap, I think, to one, know your business fully. You have to put in that work where you have some nights you're really not sleeping. You're not going on vacation, because you need to be obsessed with learning every aspect of your business. But of course, if there's things you can't do, like with my footwear line, that's a different story. We'll get to that. But if you can do it or learn it, then you got to do it. At least your first year. You shouldn't be throwing so much money around, because I just don't think it's smart, honestly. Learn your business, and then you'll be able to connect with your employees better too, and appreciate them more, and just grow as an entrepreneur. And with that softball facility, I have multiple managers. I don't really have to go into location at all anymore. And I really don't, to be honest. I have directors of our club teams, but I know what they're doing because I did it, and I treat them really kindly every time I, connect with them and talk to them on the phone, and, I amp them up because I did it, So I think that's really important. I think that people don't talk about that enough, unless it's stuff that you can't do, obviously. But if you can, which I think a lot of times you can do a chunk of, the work as a starting new business, I think you should.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point about learning the kind of different roles and sort of filling them out. And that's essentially what what he says in the E-Myth. I don't know if you've read that book, but yeah, he says do each role and then move on to the next one after you build it out, and hire to fill your role and then move on to another one, basically.
Exactly.
In kind of priority order. So let's talk about your Limitless, the shoe brand that you've got. Yeah, tell us about that.
I know this sounds so crazy, because it's like, how'd you go from softball to footwear? But
well, I mean, is it I think that's a good question. Is it Is it footwear related to softball, or is it completely not related?
No, well, kind of. All right. So it was 2021 and I went to one of our camps. So we do really big camps with like hundreds of athletes now. And I went and I also do a lot of, inspirational talks. I sometimes don't like the word motivational speaker because I feel like the word motivation comes from a place of lack, like I'm going to motivate you to do this, like I try to say I'm an inspirational speaker because I just share shit that I've done and believe in heavily, and continue to learn myself. But I went to this one camp in 2021 and I was doing a talk. And after the talk, I just kind of sat back in this big sports complex and I was looking at what I created. And I remember my first camp, I had like 6 girls and it was our 10-year anniversary. And I swear to God, I just felt such like gratitude. And I was like so grateful to the point of tears almost, just looking at like, what the hell did I create? Wow, And so that was like the vibe I was in. That was the feeling I was in, And then I was walking around looking at all the BAP bags and all of their stuff, and I saw Crocs everywhere and shark slides everywhere and just like slides thrown around because they throw their stuff they kick off their slides, throw it, put their cleats on. So there's just footwear everywhere. And all of a sudden I'm like, wow, like I want to, why don't any of these slides have words of empowerment on them? Because they're about to go perform for 5 hours against their peers. Why don't they just remind themselves of like, I got this? Like the last thing they see before they take their cleats off, before they put their cleats on. That's where the original idea came from. And I got that same feeling that I had when I was at the motor vehicle when I was 23. Like, oh my gosh, I am going to create footwear with words of affirmation all over them. And not only that, allow the wearer to insert different words of empowerment to remind themselves of what they're trying to feel for that moment, for that day. And that's where the idea came from. And it's not just for athletes now. Like we sell to everybody from 70-year-olds to 6-year-olds in all different areas. Like, so anyway, that's where the idea came from. I ran home. I don't have any background in footwear, but I had a clear vision. Like I got really obsessed really fast. I started looking online at every footwear, every slide out there, everything. And then I said, okay, this is something I cannot do myself. I need to line up with others that are masters in their craft. And together we could build an awesome team and bring something brand new to the market. And 2 years later, there's a lot in those 2 years. Like, yeah. that was like crazy. But 2 years later is when we launched. About like 2.5 years later, I would say we launched. That's where the idea came from.
Fascinating. Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask was, in the preceding kind of 10 years you running the other business, did you ever have any other business ideas? Are you someone that just comes up with business ideas a lot and like, writes them down or parks them? Or because I'm just fascinated that you just went, right, this is the one for me, and then went straight into it. I was kind of wondering what was the difference between that idea and any other ideas you might have had in the last, 10 years.
Yeah, I really like that question. Nobody's ever asked me that, honestly, because I always have ideas. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, you're just thinking, or you're inventing, or you're seeing something in a way that others are not, right? So one of the ideas that I had in those 10 years was to create a catcher's training device, like a baseball or softball catcher's training device. And I went to get the fabric for it. It was supposed to be something to help you not like drop your arm so much when you throw down to the second base. I went and got fabric. I built out this device. I still have pictures. I stapled it. I was like, oh, this could be something. I got a patent lawyer. I thought I was going to create something. But to be honest, the difference with that was that I also felt a lot of like resistance when I was doing that. Like I wasn't sure so much. I was like, yeah, but I don't know. And I was like, do I, well, really, well, it was like, I felt a little bit of that. It wasn't a whole like, oh, you got to go all in for this, but
The
I did start
resistance.
a little bit.
So the resistance was from yourself, not from others.
Correct.
Mm.
For myself. Yeah. Like it was like 80% yes, 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 but still that 20% like something's off here. And I was trying to ignore that because I was excited. But then I couldn't ignore it when I was like, I don't know. And I'm up to $14,000 to this patent lawyer. And I think I need to stop right now. And I was still like not that successful. I mean, I was still like newer in that 10-year chunk, but I kind of was like, I'm just gonna waste this. I'm gonna be done with this one. And I stopped right there, $14,000 later. But it taught me a lot though, because it also taught me like a certain feeling comes with when you know you're gonna go all in, I had other ideas too, like if I was gonna open up a bigger facility and do multi-sports, and I was thinking about that, and maybe we'll do multi-sports because people know us and know that. But it wasn't like a yes.
Like I think it's Derek Sivers who talks about. I think he's written a whole book on this concept of actually of only say yes to things when it's like he calls it a hell yes, as in a hell.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's kind of like what you just described. The other one was a bit like yeah, let's do it, but the other one was
correct,
like punching the table kind of thing. Let's do it kind of thing.
Hell yeah, exactly. That's the best way to put it. You need to send me all of these books after, because that's the best way to put it.
And I'm also fascinated by, is there a kind of a process that you go through when you're looking at like those new ideas to start a new business, or is it just a feeling? Are you going through any kind of due diligence to say, who's doing this? Is anyone else doing this? Are you doing like research, or is it, no, this is what I'm doing, this is the idea, and it's kind of more of a, as you say, like a feeling?
It has to be both, right? So it has to be my feeling of that hell yes, followed by after I do my due diligence and really see what's out there, and it makes sense that there's nothing else exists out there, then I know that feeling and that hell yes was a gifted idea to me. That idea was supposed to come to me, Lisa Rizzo, and I'm the one that's supposed to do that. Same with the softball facility. There are no softball only facilities that are like success. Like, I don't want to say that are like nationally known and to the level of success that I wanted it to be, because when I first told people my idea of just having a softball facility, they were like, oh, that's a side job. You're not going to make any money for that. Like, that's like tutoring, but I created other departments and blah, blah, blah. So there was that due diligence, like that didn't exist. I'm going to be the one. That's why I have this idea. This footwear doesn't exist. I'm supposed to make it exist. This is for me to do. So it also comes with what I said in the beginning, like that badass attitude that I always had from when I was a kid. Like, this is meant for Lisa Rizzo, me to do it,
Yeah, like that inner kind of confidence and conviction.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think I'm also a little bit crazy, I guess, because some people think when I told them this idea, I mean, you have no background in footwear, so I think you have to be a little bit like, definitely think outside the box, be a little, what others would say, kooky, to make great shit happen at the same time.
Well, it's back to the vision thing, right? You had a vision and then you followed it through. And talk us through that process of that launch, because I know that there was some challenges within that 2 years.
Yeah. So I had the idea, right? And then I went out to dinner with a friend in town, and he comes from a background of products, right? His family 75 years ago launched a product, and his family is just products, specifically cleaning supplies, industrial cleaning supplies. So I met him in town when I was running, and we just sparked up a conversation. We went out to dinner one night, and I shared this idea with him, and anybody else that I shared the idea with, it was like two weeks after the idea, and I was like, listen, like, so I have this idea. I know your family's in products, I'm in a service business. I never really launched a product, service. And it was like, I want to like do interchangeable affirmations on a slide and then eventually expand that, just like this is our first product in the line. Like I have a bigger vision, obviously. And I explained it to him, and I thought, honestly, his reaction was, well, what I needed. He was like, holy shit, let's go. This is awesome. Let's do it yourself. Let's go. And I was like, all right, so I lined up with him. I really wanted him to be coming as my partner, because I know that he was like a missing piece to what would bring this to life, from the manufacturing to the development to the patents to all that, and to the shipping and the trucks and the port, or everything. So we're working on it, we're talking about it. And like 2 months later, he's like, listen, I'll be your partner. I was like, yeah, like I wanted him to be my partner. Sometimes people are like, nope, I'm going to do it all myself. But I'm like, no, when I see somebody that could make this more than what I could make it, like, let's go, So I got him on, and then we partnered with shoe designers, right? That have worked in the industry for 30 years. And they were consulting at the time. So we talked to a couple different designers, and then we met them, and we just felt that instant connection. Like they saw the vision. We designed these slides, and I have the slides with me. I'll show you, but we designed these slides with an interchangeable aspect, which doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. We spend a ton of money. We spend a lot of time, a lot of meetings, because they're in Boston. She goes back and forth to the UK often. And we were trying to get times, and it was a lot. It was that. Almost a year later, we developed this design. So that was my first mistake. We should have physically tested things out as we were going, versus just as developing something on paper. Then we line up with sourcing to actually make them. So I talked to a couple different sourcing agencies, sourcing companies, and then I finally lock in with one, and he's awesome. He sends the design over, we get it made. Okay, they test it a tiny bit. I get the product, and I realize, oh no, this is not staying. This is not going to work. Like, oh I freaked out, because I know how much money we just spent. I know how much time, and every day that goes by is just, you're not making money. You're spending money on something. We had patents, which on just the design, which was not smart. We didn't, which actually sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud. We got patents before we even had the final product. That's terrible.
So you had patents on the design you hadn't tested, basically.
We had patents on like a drawing. That's terrible, but we are so excited. So don't do that, listeners. Make sure you actually really test out. Oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. Whatever, we learned from the experience. But that was all money, that was like, yeah. Anyway. So I get the final product, and the insert was not staying in. And I'm like, and I just immediately felt that, oh no, should I have done this? And I did question it. I was like, you have those thoughts of doubt, like, who the hell am I? Do I belong here? Why am I doing this? Like, those thoughts came, they came. But the difference is I let them come in, but I'm so also very laser focused on like, I'm going to get this done because it feels more right than it does wrong. I'm just like, I have to get it done. And it was really difficult. So then we went back to the drawing board, kind of like played with the design, went back. And then finally I got my limitless slides that were perfect. And then we filed our patents after, which was another $25,000, so that was really a moment that I did have some doubt and some uncertainty when I saw that, because this was just my idea. Like I was like, I definitely had some doubt with that.
What was the kind of the lowest point in that?
The lowest point was looking around at my family, right? So I'm married and I have two little babies. And it was looking at my family and feeling a little bit foolish that I was doing this for so long. And, you know, it may have just been silly. I felt that at one moment. I remember when I was at the dinner table and I was like struggling a lot internally, like, like I was like, am I a la la land too much? I don't, like I just really doubted myself when I saw that these were not staying in. And is it humanly possible? And I just looked at my kids and my family that was like my support and always believes in me. And I felt like silly. I felt silly. I felt like I was disappointing them,
Wow. That's quite a strong emotion.
Yeah, I did because it's, you get excited in business, you get excited with your visions. And when something happens like that, where you don't even know if it's going to work, you do have those strong emotions. You are like, am I a fool? Like, was I silly to do this? And I felt that. But again, I believed in it more than I didn't believe in it. That's the thing. I believed in it more, and I believed in getting back to solution after that little rut. I also let myself feel those things. I didn't just be like, oh, that's fine. I let myself feel those emotions. And then I said, all right, pick up your pants. Let's go, snap out of it. And let's get it done. But I think I also learned that from my mom, because 2 weeks after, she found her husband gone, she started cleaning houses to raise us, So it's like, that's what I saw. It's like, you got to figure this out, because I believed in it.
Mm. Like an attitude of, you haven't got time to dwell on it. You've just got to find a solution.
Right. And I saw her do that because she had 3 little babies she had to take care of, and she didn't have any money left or anything. There was no like life insurance. It just, we didn't have that, So yeah. But I also believe at the same time, like, if it doesn't feel right, you got to just walk away from it, but this one felt right. This felt right. People sometimes, I think, are pushing for things that just because they're so in it and they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it's like, do you want to spend $1 million and then walk away from it? Or do you want to just nip it and then find something else? Like, you have to know when to persevere and when to pivot, I think.
But I think sometimes, I mean, you gave the other example when you didn't, when you did cut it early. And I think sometimes it's that, people realize how much they're in terms of like sunk costs. So they're kind of doing that, that sort of calculation of, well, I'm already, as you said, hundreds of thousands in, so I might as well carry on now.
Right. Because it's hard. It's hard, the financial loss. You look back and you're like, oh, I just spent $500,000 on something that's not going to work. And then also the shame. I mean, you feel like crap. You feel like you're disappointment, and that's hard. Those are hard. But you got to know when to persevere and when to pivot. And I think that always goes back to figuring out a solution. And when you're figuring out that solution, are there more roadblocks? If there's more roadblocks, you got to walk away. If you're trying to figure out that solution and then you do get that solution, sooner than later, you stick with it. You go back to your vision.
And you mentioned the word shame. Is that a good summary of how you felt?
Yeah, I did. I felt, and shame is such a powerful word, but I really did feel low because I thought maybe this was just silly. You're embarrassed. You feel embarrassed a little bit. And it's not like you feel embarrassed to others because I didn't tell I wasn't telling anybody. Like, I'm a big believer of not blasting things to the world because I already, I've seen it, I've done it. Like, oh, this is going to happen. This is going to happen when I was younger, especially. And then it doesn't happen, but I didn't really tell everybody exactly what I was working on. Just myself. It was myself that I felt like, ugh, I don't like this feeling.
So that's all internal kind of conversation, basically.
Correct. Yeah.
And what was the the other impacts of that design not working?
Financially, I didn't want to bring on investors. This is all my own money. My partner put up a little bit of money, but really it was my own money, right? So financially, it was, you know, my family. We were working on a house that we were renovating. I had my other business going. It was a lot. It was just a lot more stress. And yeah, it was a financial hit because we had to go back to the drawing board, and I wasn't making any money from this. I was just pouring out a lot of money. It's a lot of money to design a product and protect it at the same, we spent a lot of money.
Well, how much were you in at the point when, you were a year in and you said that the design didn't work?
About a year in, about 200,000.
Right.
My own money.
Right.
That's the thing. And when, it's my own money, it's like, that was money that I really, was not funny money. Like I really didn't want to touch. I didn't think I would need that much to make this,
And was that the when you said about letting your family down, was it related to that 200,000, essentially that, you thinking, well, have I lost all that money and that's going to affect their future?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was also, my personality too. I was like, I wasn't able to be a happy, present parent because I was struggling internally so much, and I was easier to just feel stressed with my kids. I had basically a newborn at the time and a 2-year-old. Now my son is 2 and Carmela, my daughter, just turned 5 last week. So it's like I was in a phase of, oh my gosh, and we were renovating our house and I wasn't in a good mood when I said, yeah, it was a lot. And I still have my other business, that other business is doing well, but it runs, it's like a machine now, but it's still my business. I still am paying attention to it, because I want to still.
So you kind of touched on a few things, but what was the biggest mistake you made? Because I'm just thinking, if there's other people out there that are, looking to design products, what was the biggest mistake you made up to the point where, you had that final design and there was obviously a glitch with it?
If you're designing a product and there's something unique about it, figure out that first unique aspect instead of spending so much time on designing the look, the color, the aesthetics of it. Go to that aspect of what makes it unique, test that, figure that out, and then do all the rest, because only then can you really get right to the nitty-gritty. Save yourself money. You can file those patents immediately without wasting money on things that just simply don't work. So go to the nitty-gritty, get it tested a million times, and then add the frills to it, add everything else to it. Don't worry about the logo. Don't worry about your social media plan, where your warehouse is going to be, colors. Get to what makes it different and figure that out first. Done. 100%. Would have saved us so much time and so much money.
So
and stress.
Yeah. Creating a minimal viable product. Essentially.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And you mentioned about not having physically tested it much and obviously creating the pattern on the design and stuff. What should you have done there? Should you have created like a prototype?
We thought by how we designed it, and I'll show you the slides, when we drew it up with the shoe designers, we thought it would just naturally work, right? Because it's about clasping something in on the top of a slide, which I'll show you. But when you walk, like pretty thoroughly, you have to also remember that there's flexion in that material. So we just thought it would naturally sit, and the clasps were good. We thought the design was good. It's going to hold it in, but we weren't considering really heavy wear and tear on it and how the foot goes a lot, whatever angle your foot is. So that's where we made that mistake.
So should you have what should you have done? Created more like designs, tested it more like rigorously and robustly?
Yes. Figure out exactly how this is going to work, what it looks like for it to work perfectly, and then protect it.
And then do the pattern. Yeah.
Versus like, we thought it would work, but we didn't go hard with the testing. That was it. You have to test things hard. And then you're just not wasting time or money or adding stress to it, you know.
The low point that you mentioned where, you know, you felt you let your family down. And I'm just also thinking about, you know, the other product that you didn't go ahead with. Was there a moment where you thought this is just the same sort of scenario, and that it was kind of on repeat, and that you should also put this one to bed?
Not heavy. No, I never felt what I felt with that other product with this. I never felt that other product. It didn't like, I don't know. It wasn't the hell yes, you know? So I was like, I'll never forget, like $14,000 at that time was a lot of money to me, and still is a nice amount of money, honestly. But at that time, I mean, I think I was like 28, you know, like it was, but I was done with it. I was like, okay, this isn't going to, I don't feel it. This one, if anything, I just got hungrier to figure it out. I got hungrier to figure it out, for sure.
And those, you said you were getting like design consultancy, and essentially, as you mentioned, you know, you've done the intelligent thing, which is following the who, not how principle. You haven't tried to work out yourself. You've gone to, you know, consultants, experts who have done this before. Why didn't they advise you better that this was not the way to proceed?
I think because it was the first time that anything was being made like this. I don't think they really knew also, you know. We just assumed that it would work, to be honest. They're shoe designers, but they're not like engineers. You know what I mean? Like they're and that's where I think we kind of learned, like, all right, we got to really get this in the hands of, you know, people that are in that world of like the utility of something, because they designed a beautiful piece of footwear. It's like a beautiful piece of footwear, but they did good with like helping create the concept, and they brought us really far with that. The only thing is it just popped out. We just made a minor adjustment. We ended up having just to make a minor. It wasn't a whole big overhaul, but we still had to make the adjustments, you know. But we didn't know what the adjustment were. You know, we had to pause and figure all that out.
And then how long did that delay the launch for?
I would say about 6 months.
So you were ready to look, you had a launch plan, and then it all had to be pushed back?
Yeah, we pretty much were like, okay, this is what we're going to launch. I remember it was like, I always said the spring of, I mix up all the years, but it was the spring, and then we ended up doing October.
So fairly sort of significant pushback.
Yeah, it was just everything else. It was just another 6 months of money going out and nothing coming in.
And what have you learned from, you know, those experiences that you've now sort of taking into other aspects of your life or business? Is there been any?
I learned to do my due diligence heavily with something new, right? Something that doesn't exist. Really test. And also allow myself some more grace, you know, as somebody who is a very hungry and driven person, and like many others who are, if they're listening to this, I'm 99.9% sure they are. It's very easy to be tough on yourself when something doesn't work out how you envisioned immediately. But I think it's important to give ourselves grace and go back to our vision and our visualization of what it's like post successful launch. See that in your mind of what that looks like. What does your life look like post successful launch of anything? And then that'll trigger feelings of ease, joy, excitement, eagerness, lightness that helps get you right back to where you got to go, instead of sitting in it.
And that process that you just mentioned, is that how you kind of stay strong during difficult moments and get through them and overcome them?
Yeah, I write a visualization story typically every 6 months. And it's just a story of my life 6 months from now, as if how it's done, how it already is, it exists, right? And I've been doing this from when I'm 24 years old. I started. I read it every morning and every night. First paragraph is always, "Dear universe, God, thank you so much for the beautiful life I have today." First paragraph is always thanks and what you give back. I'm so grateful I'm able to inspire millions. The second one is, I'm so happy and grateful now that Limitless has reached blah, blah, blah. Everybody wants a pair of Limitless slides. Everybody has a pair of Limitless slides. And I see it, and like celebrities, pro athletes, that's in my story now. I see it in my head and I feel it to be true, which goes back to really like also a little bit of the law of attraction. And then I talk about my family. I'm so blessed to have healthy, blah, blah, blah. And we spend time together. We create together. And then I talk about avenues of where I'm able to speak and get myself out there in media. I was a guest on Drew Barrymore. I was just a guest on Drew Kelly Clarkson's show. I do all that. And actually, I said I was on the Today Show. I have my story, I swear, from 2023 or 2022, where I say Limitless Slides were on the Today Show. Okay. And I write the story, but I also do a voice memo. So when I'm running, I run every day. I'm listening to it. So Limitless Slides, I'll repeat. Yeah. And so I'm like, all right. Yeah. It's usually like a 6-minute audio, but I see it, I feel it. And then I really believe like attracts like. And sure enough, we were on the Today Show in June. We were on the Today Show, and I launched October 10th. And the Today Show is a very well-known show. I don't know by you, but it's like a huge national show here.
Yeah.
And our slides were on it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like here we go, And then I've just been doing more media. I have some awesome things coming up. And I'm like, man, it's month 10. But that story writing really works. You wake up, you read it before you look at your phone, before you put your feet down, before you hear your kids calling for you. And then before bed, you have to read it after you play on your phone or whatever you do. You have to that has to be the last thing that you see before bed in your mind. That I've been doing since I'm 23. So I have stories just wanting to make like $1,000 to pay my, I save everything too. And then in my house, my wife is very also big into law of attraction. So we have a room in our house of different frames on our wall. It's like a sitting room of where we started. And then the last 2 frames, I'm not going to lie, it has a private jet on there. Just so we could travel, whatever. Like we do just, I don't know. It's kind of fun to just put it up there.
It's kind of like your vision board.
Exactly. But a vision board that like actually triggers feelings. Everybody's doing freaking vision boards now, but like you have this work that comes with the vision board. You have to like feel it, you have to be excited about it. So we have, but then in the same time, we're also looking at pictures of things that we accomplished that we didn't know we would accomplish, but we also kind of did from that first picture that's up on the wall. So I always go back to like the vision. You got to really see it. You got to see it. Just like attracts life. I'm very big on that law of attraction work. That's how I get back after a rough anything.
No, it's great. I've never heard of someone doing it so frequently. Obviously, I heard the thing of visualizing and writing to yourself in the future, but I really like the thing of renewing it essentially because things change, right? So yeah, no, that's great. And the thing of repetition is and listening to it all the time is also a great tactic.
They change and they also will happen, believe it or not. And it's not that you're not doing anything for it to happen. Like Sometimes people think that if you do law of attraction, you're just laying on a couch and thinking of things you want. But when I do law of attraction, I'm taking inspired action subconsciously and sometimes consciously to bring that to life. So, a lot of people call it hard work. I'm working very hard. I'm working very hard. I call it inspired action. I am inspired. I'm taking actions. If I'm working 24/7, that's inspired action to me because I'm hitting my vision, part of my vision.
No.
Could sound
Right.
crazy, people, but
No, I like
whatever.
it. You mentioned the word shame earlier, and I think that was an interesting kind of, as you said, it's a really powerful word. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs or new people looking to launch businesses, that shame holds them back, and they've got a fear of failure. What advice would you give to those people?
A fear of failure is normal, first of all. I think people need to understand, like, that is normal, okay? Like, you are going to be a little scared to fail. There's also fear of success, like, am I ready for it? Am I worth this, I think as long as you understand that you will have setbacks, but versus going into it as, no, I won't have any setbacks. If you kind of know, like, things are going to happen, you'll be able to be a little bit more focused on solutions versus that shock of, oh my God, this isn't going to work. I'm a big believer in that. So I would say fear of a setback, maybe, change that word of failure to like fear of a big setback, a big challenge. I think challenges are universe's way of testing you to get you ready for your main desire. Like, they're just lessons, they're tests. What are you going to do with it? And I always say, give yourself grace, go back to your vision. And if after you're trying to really make something happen, you're getting a lot of roadblocks and a lot of like red flags, like this isn't working, be okay with pivoting. You don't have to give up, but be okay with pivoting. Maybe there's something greater out there for you.
Find the hell yes.
Hell yes, baby.
So final question. If you could go back in time and, erase the failure of that first product that you designed, the glove that, you didn't go forward on, and this design glitch and all of the issues you had with that, and so they never actually happened and they didn't ever exist, would you take that?
I would not change a thing in my story because I am more proud of myself and I have more self-confidence because I got through the roadblock of the design. And I'm also very proud of myself that I didn't force something that didn't feel right with that first product. So no, I have no regrets of anything in my life or wish anything was different, because at the end of the day, you'll always understand why it happened if you take a second to really look back and understand it,
Amazing. So we always end on a quick fire round. So short questions and short answers.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay.
So failure is
a test to learn more about yourself and do better.
What's your life's mission?
To empower others, to make them realize they can have and do anything they want in their life and within themselves while having a good quality of life.
What's one piece of advice you'd want to give to people on your deathbed?
Set a vision and have fun. Life is supposed to be fun.
Name one habit that keeps you resilient.
My meditation, law of attraction work.
If you could be immortal and live forever, would you take that?
No, because I wouldn't have others that I love with me.
If you could swap places with any other business person in the world, who would it be?
Richard Branson.
Why is that?
Because he seems so fun and he's having the best time of his life. So that's what I want to do.
And he's flying the British flag, but yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But no, he can, he seems to be ageless because he's,
yeah.
I don't even know how old he is. Yeah.
Oh my God, he's like 400 and he
Yeah,
comes
exactly.
back.
Is there anyone you could recommend that you think I should have on as a guest?
My partner, Jeff Dusich, he came out with his own cleaning product recently, and he had some setbacks for sure.
Great. So Lisa, where can people connect with you and find you?
Limitlessslides.com, at Limitless Slides, and Lisa Rizzo, Lisarizz, with 3 O's on Instagram and TikTok, all that good stuff. I'm all over that.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for being here and sharing such a wealth of insight, I would say, and some really great tactics that people can use, and that really love the visualization stuff, and sharing all of some of those difficult moments. And I'm sure that wasn't easy. So thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much. It was very therapeutic. How much do I owe you for the therapy session?
We can discuss that offline. But
Okay.
thanks again, Lisa.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Fail. Really hope you enjoyed this episode and learned something new. Please do subscribe to the show and leave us a review. It really does help us to grow and to reach more people. Do follow us on social media too. We're at Jeswood on Instagram and at Beyond the Fail on YouTube and also on Linktree. Thanks again and see you soon.